This video is sponsored by Squarespace.
Hey, Bill, I'm in the mood for a switch up. I get the function with the roller till I hit up. I hit patiently with money that's a gift up.
Sony just announced the most. Okay. Sony just announced the A7. Okay. Just announced your Sony.
Oh crap! Oh crap!
Oh God.
Been down a little bit.
Oh. Sony just announced the most confusing camera that I've ever had to review. This is the Sony A7 III Mini-Me. It's called the Sony A7C. There isn't much innovation in this camera, and I feel like it's a year too late, but I still feel like it offers a lot of value to people like me that vlog, but does it offer value to you that needs a camera for photo and video? But my question is it a one-trick pony? Is it only made for vloggers? We're gonna find out.
Say hello to the camera of your dreams, the camera that we've all been waiting for. Actually, it's just the same camera as the 2-year-old Sony A7 III, but just in a smaller body with the flip screen of the Sony A7S III without the touch functionality and the updated menus. Like, are you as confused as me? Let's dive in and see what the hell this is all about.
I'm gonna be taking some pictures with the A7C. I'm gonna give you guys a photographer's perspective on this camera because it's not really geared toward photographers. I mean, it lost all the custom buttons. It replaced it with a record button. Let's see what it's like in the real world. Are you done wasting all my data? For portraits, I don't think you're gonna miss any of the joysticks because you're not gonna have to change focusing modes. The autofocus, the continuous AF is so good, you're not gonna need it. But if you shoot something else, that's where you're probably gonna be missing the custom buttons and the ability to really customize the camera. And it's got that tracking that is so good when she turns around, spin around for me. Boom. Okay, J-Lo, okay. Also, one thing, listen to the shutter sound.
And that's the sound of the mechanical shutter. It does not allow you to change between electronic and mechanical like most Sony cameras, which is kind of weird. It's just always on mechanical.
I'm gonna try using the electronic viewfinder. It's definitely usable, but it's so small compared to the other cameras that I find myself struggling and squinting inside to really see it.
Just look at me as I try to look inside that tiny little hole. You have to literally jam your eyeball in there just to look in. After taking photos with this camera, I can tell you it's just not a photocentric camera. If you want to take pictures, get the A7 III, which is still my favorite photography camera. Leave this camera for the videographers and the vloggers. As for the A7C body, there are some things that I like and some things that I don't like. First off, the man behind the silver top design idea needs a raise right now. It gives me that Fuji retro vibe, and it's definitely a nice change. This camera takes on the form factor of an APS-C camera, but when you compare it to the A7 III, they are about the same exact width. As a matter of fact, if it wasn't for the EVF on the A7 III and its larger grip, they would practically be the same size. The SD card slot is also placed on the left side of the camera, along with the mic jack, micro HDMI port, and a USB-C port. They removed the top custom buttons along with the built-in flash that was on all the other APS-C cameras like the A65, A6600, and replaced it with a large record button. Sony really missed the mark with the flippy screen though. Since the EVF is barely usable, it would have only made sense to include the updated menus and functionality of the A7S III screen. Now when you approach this camera from a video perspective, that's when everything kind of comes into focus. So what benefits do you get with using the Sony A7C, which I'm filming right now in the 20mm f1.8, over filming with my beloved workhorse A7 III? Well, number one, you get no recording limit on the A7C. I was able to shoot 4K, 100 megabytes a second for over an hour until it overheated. Number two, you got the flippy screen. Although it doesn't have the fancy bells and whistles of the A7S III screen, it's still essential for filming yourself. And number three, it has a smaller form factor than the A7 III. Yes, not that much smaller, but you definitely notice it in your camera bag, and I feel less intimidated talking to a smaller camera than I do with a bigger camera. It's a small thing, but trust me, it makes a difference. And as you've seen in the beginning of the video, I still can't talk in front of a camera, even after 4 years of doing this. But anyways, I think this is the best vlogging setup that I've ever used in terms of what it offers. Full frame, it's stabilized. I can get a lens like the 20mm f1.8 that's small, that it has a fast, wide aperture, and I can carry it around easily. This is the best. But at the same time, does it make sense in 2020? That's the thing. I think that if this setup was released last year, I think that it would have made a lot more sense then releasing it in 2020 after the A7S3, after the A7 III now is 2 years old, and we're already anticipating the A7 IV. You know what I'm saying? It's a tough sell in 2020. But at the same time, if you need a camera to film yourself, this makes all the sense in the world. I know, I'm all over the place, right? So who should buy this camera? So number one, if you are an owner of an APS-C camera and you like the form factor of your little APS-C camera and your video first, 100%, this camera makes sense. And I feel like that's low-key Sony strategy to get people to leave APS-C because they're not really supporting these cameras anymore. Number two, I feel like if you own a high-resolution Sony camera and you've been looking at getting the A7 III for its lower resolution, but you also want to focus on video, this actually makes a lot of sense as well. So that is my recommendation. As for the price, I don't even have the confirmed price with me right now, so it's hard for me to say, but if I feel like it's gonna be $1,800, and at $1,800, it doesn't make much sense, does it? I don't know. It's $200 more expensive than the A6600, which is their top of the line APS-C camera, but it's cheaper than the A7 III, but at this point, you can get A7 III probably cheaper than this one at $1,800 brand new because you can find it cheaper on the used market. So it all depends on what you need. That screen needs to be extremely important to you to buy a camera like this over the A7 III, which is more of a hybrid camera and offers a lot more for photographers. So a shout out to my sponsor for this video, and that is Squarespace. If you are looking for a website, blog, or an online store, make sure to check out Squarespace. I have been using them for years. I have an online store with them where I sell my presets, my online tutorials. It makes a great side income, and you can set that up so easily. The templates, you don't need to hire a web designer to put your website together. It's so easy to use. You can change your templates at a click of a button. And if you are interested in starting your website, which every photographer needs a website, use the coupon code Manny and you will get 10% off your first purchase. So check out the link below. If you have been watching to this point, I think you should subscribe because, I mean, obviously we're vibing right now. If you made it to this point, we're vibing, okay? So I'd appreciate that, all right? See you in the next video.